we have seen the various components of total cost of ownership. Okay, so it might vary from from sector to sector or company to company. We will see quickly that how different components, right, under three categories can be seen, right. So we know that better product design, that means if we will involve supplier early, right, 70 to 80% of TCO are like total cost of ownership, like can be contributed during the design and development process. So we must do something on that. So acquisition cost is price paid per item, processing cost is like how we can save it if we will not get timely and timely deliveries and good qualities deliveries, like our processing or converting cost would be increasing, right. We have to wait for the product and there won't be any production during that time. Better asset utilization, right. So share critical assets with the supplier, right. Quality cost, okay. So we all know quality cost, downtime cost, like mostly it has been studied that 1 minute of downtime in production line may cost around $26,000. Okay, so one must be watchful of like what is the downtime cost. Okay, risk cost, like how to optimize suppliers to keep inventories and supply base at minimum. Okay, so like keeping, because many a times we think that we will stock up so much inventory to mitigate the risk, like so to manage the risk also sometimes companies have to incur cost even by buffering or like have multiple suppliers, right. So that is also a that is also cost to manage or mitigate the risk, right. Cycle time cost. So we can say that in all three categories this cost components appear in different manner, like cycle time, like new product development, how quickly we can go to the market. Okay, conversion cost, many a times like in conversion cost many times we use a product which generates lot of scrap, lot of rework. Okay, so can we think of some substitute of the product so that we can save on the cost. Now this is only possible if we have this orientation of total cost of ownership. If we know that using this product we need to check upfront whether lot of rework can happen, whether lot of scrap would be generated, then you include that cost also during TCO determination, so that you can take the decision of buying at that price from that particular supplier on time, right. So non value added costs, like unnecessarily cost of delays by the supplier, supply chain costs, like the software system, human resources, right. There are many times conflicting issues, like supply chain partners, they don't follow the same goals, the goals are not aligned with the supply chain partners. So that also causing cost. And post ownership costs we have already seen. So we will see that for example conversion cost, I would like to mention here that many a times like suppliers, they approach manufacturers that why don't you change the material from, let's say, copper to brass, brass to steel, right. Many a times the buyers would think that this is a less cost or less price commodity, the price is mostly stable, why not try that. But if you would take that substitute product, you might end up having lot of downtime, or you might having maybe your machines tools are not adaptable to the new kind of raw material. Okay, so one has to analyze all such things, like the usage costs, like upfront, right, while making your buying decision. Okay, so now how one can build the TCO, right, these are the steps. Okay, because now we have seen that for different sectors or different companies, like there can be different heads of costs. Okay, but how one can uh, build a TCO, you right. I think if we will do it with the example, it would be more understandable. Okay. So suppose there is a company which is considering to purchase 1000 desktop PCs. Okay. The life cycle, because you see, if we are focusing on total cost of ownership, that means we have to capture the life cycle, right? So the life cycle they are seeing is 3 years, and they know the cost of capital was 12%. Why we need cost of capital? Because we have to bring down all the future prices to the present value, right? Because those costs across the life cycle, right, we want to capture. Okay. So now using various cost components, TCO for each of the decision was calculated, right? Now what is the first step? Map the process and develop TCO categories. Okay. How we are going to do that? Right. So we will first see what are the cost components. Map. So this is purchase price, acquisition cost, usage cost, end of life. Okay. So what we have done? Step 1, map the process and develop TCO categories. Now determine the cost element for each category, right? Whatever categories we have considered now, what are the subcategories when we want to purchase the product? Step 2 is all the subcategories. Cost element can be equipment, right? We need different softwares to be installed, right? So these are the subcategories of costs, right? Acquisition cost, we need manpower, right, to do purchasing things day in day out. We need administration related cost to generate purchase orders, right, generate invoices. Okay. And then their usage cost, like once we have bought the product, their likely installation, equipment support, network support, warranty, or opportunity cost of lost productivity if the machine would be down for some time, right? So no, that means those hours would have been used for some productive usage. That is the opportunity cost. Okay. So opportunity cost must be considered in TCO. So we will have more discussion on that. Let's first cover the steps, right? We have mapped the process, right? The process of selecting vendors for 1000 PCs. We have determined the cost element for each category, and now we will say determine how each cost element is to be measured. Okay. Measured means we really want each cost to be in currencies, let's say in rupees. Okay. So from where we will get data? The next step is gather data and quantify costs, right? So we should know how to measure the cost, and now gathering the actual data. So equipment and this purchase related cost, obviously we will get from the quotations, right? What suppliers are quoting. Acquisition cost here. Now here this is like FT is full time equivalent. How we decide the number of hours employees are working for 1 week, 2 week, or per month, per year. Every company has their own FTE rules. Okay. So now we have to see what kind of employees, like if 2 FTEs, that means this many particular hours per month or per year would be spent on such activities. So this is sourcing and administration, they have calculated. So you know how to first define that measure. What is FTE? That is standardized for a particular company. That is done. So now you would gather the data. So how to measure it? One should know the definition of FTE, purchase orders, and how much is spent on that, and then gather the data. So this is how we would gather the data. Again, this is so installation or usage related costs one would get from the quotations, right? Various quotations, right? And end of life also one can get from there are various vendors who are there to collect. Okay. Now we have to develop a cost timeline. So obviously we are saying total cost of ownership across life cycle, and in this example it is 3 years, right? So the timeline is 3 years. Now we have to do what? First of all, the time cost line. So in the next case, okay, so we have, right? So this is the present value. So we have converted all the definition, the measures into now actual cost data. So this is the present data, but there would be some costs, this administration related cost, the opportunity cost, lost productivity, downtime would be there every year, right? Installation will be one time, however equipment network support will be next 3 years. So this is the total cost, if we will get total cost every year, okay. And can we bring the present value, so this will be same, and this present value of year 1, like next year what would be our cost, that we will determine from our 12% cost of capital, right? The cost of capital was 12%. So whatever cost will be happen in 1 year, the present value will be this, okay. So that can be brought to the present value, and then we will add. So this is how one should compute the total cost of ownership, okay. Now this exercise, implementing all the steps, have been done for one supplier. So this is done for one supplier. Similarly, if we will have more than 2-3 quotations, so one should compare total cost of ownership for multiple quotations, and then only make a decision of which one to select, okay. Okay, so now so this is like, you know, we would help us in deciding which supplier to select based on our total cost of ownership across the life cycle of any product or service, okay. So the next step, one of the steps, like, you know, where we have mentioned the opportunity cost, right? So don't forget to include opportunity cost when we when we compute the total cost of ownership, okay. So if you really want to see the opportunity cost along with the ownership or usage cost only, it would reflect, like, you know, in this case we have seen the downtime cost, but if you would explore, right, you will see that in healthcare sector, like, you know, how those sectors or different sectors, they actually incur different usage cost, right? For example, here in this example one can see that how clinical products, like, you know, here if they want to capture, you know, the carbon dioxide measurement, right, this mechanism confers safety benefits to patients, including confirmation of tracheal intubation and recognition of accidental esophageal intubations, okay. Now you see that those include the cost of monitor plus repeated purchases of accessories, including sensors, airway adapters and cables. Sensors are often damaged during connection and disconnection, handling and regular usage, right. Now you see the real life how the usage costs, like, you know, during the usage of product, and, you know, many accessories in repetitive manner are required, okay. So all these aspects one must capture, right, you know. So the point here is, like, it's not only one company or another company or one particular sector which is facing such costs, you know, you can see even the healthcare sector, right. So the usage costs appear in different uh, uh, dimensions, one can say, right, you know. So that appears differently for different sectors, right. So lost sales or downtime, such opportunity cost must be considered so that one can take the right decision while selecting the supplier. And if overall we see that, you know, different types of business, if we will see, like, you know, service provider, they incur more of overhead expenditures, right, maintaining capital and operating equipment. So total cost of maintaining the employee base, right. So we will see that out of these 3 categories, right, so for a particular sector, one category might be more prominent over others, okay, but it would be there, all categories would be there, right? For example, in retail, system facilitating the process involving inventory ordering, turnover will influence total cost of inventory ownership. So what happens to retail, right? So retailer is the point where end customer would go and buy the products, right? So even for warranty guarantees, one has to approach retailer, right? uh, our day-to-day example, like, you know, if you want to buy fruits and vegetables from retailers, you might have seen that poor retailer, like, you know, in the late evening or late night, you know, it would be left with the stale fruits, stale vegetables. Okay, what does this mean? That, you know, the post ownership costs, right, they are very prominent in the retail sector, right? Warranty, guarantee, you know, so all those post ownership costs are more prominent to those sectors, right? However, manufacturing, this is more of a procurement of direct material, and misleading price variances, like, means the acquisition price and acquiring a product is more prominent in manufacturing, right? So usage cost, overhead costs are more prominent in service providers, and post ownership costs are more prominent in retail. This is just an observation, you know, one can have from different sectors, right? So given this data, like, you know, one can think of how to reduce, how to have an innovative measures to reduce each cost component. Okay, so this is another example one can see from the slide, right? So this is all about total cost of ownership. This is a very important and very useful tool, you know, to analyze, like, are we giving right price? Are we paying the right price to the, for a valuable product or valuable service we are buying? Okay. Now, what are the other tools one can use to make this decision? How we be sure that the price we are paying is fair enough, right? We can do that with price analysis, right? How supplier has decided to charge a particular price, that also is a important decision. How we are going to buy best value for stated price. Okay, so TCO has taken all aspect across the life cycle, right? Now if we want to focus on the price, right, the acquisition price, the purchase price, right, whether that has been quoted in a fair manner or whether that price is fair or not, for that we can do certain price analysis approaches, right? So determining the right price is the, it is the purchaser's knowledge on different pricing method, right? So in strategic sourcing function, it is expected from the supply manager that, you know, they should be knowledgeable enough, right, how to evaluate the right price, right? So when to use which method, for which kind of category of products to use that method, right? Because it is very important to know that how suppliers are setting the prices, right, and what are the techniques to establish and adjust the price, right? Because what is fair price? For fair price for supply manager is something like which is the lowest price, right, that ensures the continuity of supply, right, and definitely other criteria, right? But for a supplier, it must, the price at which supplier is selling the product, it must cover their total costs, right, and reasonable profits, right, before they would sell it in the long run. Why we are saying long run? Please remember, we will answer this question when we will do cost analysis. Okay. So does supply manager pay same fair price to all suppliers? What do you think, like, you know, why the suppliers charge different prices, right? Why do you, what do you think, like, you know, what are the factors whenever we go for buying a product in the supply market, we will have so many suppliers charging different prices for same products? Why do you think so this happens? Yes, quality can be different. Okay, now if quality is same, still, you know, prices would be different. What could be the reason? Can you raise your hand? Different margins level, okay. Yeah, so everyone keeps different margin, right? But should they keep different margin? Supplier costs are different, correct. Now why suppliers costs are different? How come the costs different? What makes that cost different? Right, some suppliers produce in volumes, right? So their overhead costs come down, so the total costs incurred are less, right? That can be one reason. What are the other reasons? Huh? Yeah, so other costs like transportation or delivery costs can be lesser, right? So that could be the other reason, right? Okay, so there are many reasons. So some suppliers can be having automated technology, incur less cost, they are more efficient, okay. So it depends on the capabilities of the suppliers in terms of technology, automation, volume, standardization, okay, and hence the lesser price, okay. So these reasons one should have in mind. What could be the other things? What could be the other things why the prices of products are different?
Additional services that they might provide along with the product, like service support.
So for additional services, there is always a justification, right? That we are providing additional service, okay? But for same type of service, same type of product, why they charge different prices, okay? It definitely depends on market approach or cost based approach, right? Many a times, like the prices are not uh, defined based on the cost supplier is incurring, but it is totally market driven. If it is a monopolist, they would charge higher, right? If it is like pure competition, right, you will see the prices come down, right? That means strategic sourcing function, the supply manager must have a good command of knowledge on market, supply demand dynamics, okay. So that is very important. So those are market approaches, right? But what are the other cost based approaches one can adopt, right? There can be uh, like as I've said, that supply manager should be equipped enough to know what are the other approaches, right, other than market approaches, right? So supply demand dynamics is one. Keep an eye on all the indexes worldwide, London Price Exchange or other price exchange, right? What is happening, to know, to keep watching how the prices are fluctuating, right? That is a market approach. But other than that, we have different approaches also. What are those, right? Price volume models, quantity discounts, correct. Many a times if we would increase our volume, the suppliers tend to give us discounts, okay. One can explore that. Quantity discounts one must have, like with price breaks. If you will order more than 400 units, this will be the price. More than 500 units, price per unit will come down, okay. So one must be aware of this approach. Another is market share model, right? Many companies or suppliers, when they just launch the product, they try to get hold of more and more market share. Many a times they will charge at lesser price, correct. So in India we have seen many instances, like Jio is one of them, correct. When they came to the market, they launched the product at very lower price, right? Now this can be like to have more market share, right? It can be a short term pricing, right? In the long term, these companies might raise the prices, so one must be watchful. But if the intention is to have market share, that means there is an approach one should go for, the suppliers who have this approach of charging lesser price to gain more market share, right? Another very interesting thing is cash discounts, right? So So cash discounts are approach like, you know, in most of the invoices and billing, you must have seen, like, you know, cash discount is 2 by 10 net 30, right? So if not, now you pay attention. Many a times in B2B transactions, when you get invoices, you know, at the end of invoice, or like, you know, in the quotation or in the contract, it is written that, you know, cash discount of 2 by 10 net 30. What does this mean? 2 by 10 net 30 means 2% of discount on the invoice if it is paid within 10 days. If it is not paid within 10 days, so 10 days to 30 days, full price. Okay. So why such kind of discounts are encouraged? To secure the prompt payment, correct? If within 10 days payment would be gone, so price reduction for prompt payments of bills, 2% here, for example, in this case 2%. So offering discounts as percentage of net invoice price, right? Seller offers because of attendant costs, cost of tied up capital, they will get the money, cost of operating a credit department, right? Cost of some bad debt losses. So savings achieved by overcoming all the above costs due to short term payment may be passed on to the buyer by giving some percent of discount on invoices. Okay. Now what happens if it is a repetitive order? Okay, in that case, you know, how we view this discounts, many companies, it is practice that, you know, they just ignore, this is just 2%, right? Why I should give prompt payment, right? 2%, right? The same thinking even buyer can think, you know, why I should give. Now but if you will see, like, you know, this I wallet. So if you see that whether this 2% is a good deal or not, one should analyze annually, right? So a bill payment can be done in 30 days, right? But discount of 2% can be taken in 10th day. If the buyer is not interested to take discount, then what would happen? The buyer is paying 2% of the total amount of invoice, right? To use the cash involved for 20 days. Now can we convert this 20 days per year, 20 days per year of missing this opportunity of 2% cash discount, right? So how many such cycles will be there? 18.25. So 2% of 18.25 means 36.5% of annual discount will be lost if we won't avail this 2% of cash discount. Okay. So one can analyze such discounts which are present in the industry. Okay. The last model in the pricing, right? There are many other approaches, but these are very important approaches supply manager must keep in mind, right? So that, like many firms, they sell line of products, right? It's not about getting same profit margin on each product, rather to generate satisfactory return on the whole line of products, means the seller is ready to offset loss at one line of product from the gain at the other line of products. So it permits maximum competition on individual product sellers are there. So profits from most efficiently produced, successfully priced items may offset the losses, and hence, like, you know, the supplier might be offering variable margin, right? So one must understand. So one product with more margin, another product with less margin. Now you are buyer of which product, right? This kind of intelligence and this kind of experience supply manager must acquire. Okay. So if you are low margin product, right, the chances are you can get that product at lesser price. Okay. So why seller or producer mostly follow average profit? So this is an example, a caselet you can read. Okay. So these are the different pricing approaches under price analysis one can go for. Okay. Yeah. So you can read this caselet, that will help us to understand the last pricing approach, like, you know, which supply manager must be aware of while handling the suppliers. right? Okay.